Hi, I'm Cheryl Smith with X-Fan Technology, and here's your tech tip for the week. This week we're going to talk about a second part in our series of hurricane preparedness. Hope you enjoyed this tech tip. It's hurricane season. We need to be prepared. We see it and we hear it everywhere. We see it in advertisements on TV. We hear it on the radio on our way to work. In the newspaper, they even give us hurricane preparedness guides. Bulletin boards on major highways, they say hurricane season's here, be prepared. This is why X-Fan feels it's really important that we share with our clients and others how to become prepared before the hurricane hits. For those of you who have lived here your whole life or have been here for a long time, this may seem as though we're being Captain Obvious. I'm sorry if we come across that way, but in the heat of the moment when the hurricane hits, these are things that might get forgotten. We want you to be prepared. If we worry about our families and our homes, we don't need to worry about our electronic equipment when a hurricane is here. So I hope you enjoyed this. Many of us have our computers on the floor, like this one here. And the reason we do so is so that we can have more space on our desk. The problem with this, though, if you look at the computer itself, you can see that there's many openings in which water can get into very quickly. It can be an inch of water and it can still get into the computer. That's why it's important that ahead of time, before the hurricane hits, that you set your computer up on the desk and off the floor. Now I know I've already talked to you about taking the computer and putting it up on the desk, getting it off the floor, which is really important. But what about all these wires that hang down? They can become very dangerous. When the storm comes and starts flooding, they're on the floor, they're electric. What happens if the power goes on, you're walking near the wires, you trip, you can get electrocuted? We need to think about that kind of safety. Well, one of the things we suggest is that you use cable ties. They come in big bags, you can even get them at the dollar store. And you take your wires from behind and you just wrap them together the best you can to get them up off the floor. Use the cable tie to go around them. You just slide it through, tighten it. Notice they're nice and tight, they're not going to go anywhere. And you hang them up off your desk or on the wall, whatever works for you, to get them off the floor. This is definitely something you won't think of when the hurricane hits. One suggestion that we have at X-Fan is that you use a battery backup system. Now, understand that all files are backed up by IsUtility, and that's not a problem. What I'm talking about is an emergency situation where the power goes off. I'd like you to think of the battery backup system just like the battery in your alarm clock. If you have a battery in your alarm clock and the power goes off, the alarm goes off, you're able to get up, you're able to get to work on time. What happens if you don't have a battery in that alarm clock? The alarm doesn't go off and you're late for work. Well, the battery backup system is similar to that. It's basically used so that you can shut down the computer gracefully. It's not a system that you're going to want to keep using. It's plugged in to all of your equipment, power goes off, and you're able to stay on. You should save at this point and close everything. And that way, you have saved and you're logged off, and IsUtility will continue to back up your information. Another suggestion, and a much longer alternative to battery backup, would be to use a generator. A generator is great because all of your electric can work with that. And if you have electric, you have IsUtility. Sign on to our system, go ahead and do everything you need to do, log off, and you're good to go. Now, it's important to remember to fill the gas tank of the generator beforehand. Also, the gas can should be full. Just like you would fill your car in case of an emergency, you need to make sure these are full of gas also. The last part of this series that I'd like to talk to you about is surge protectors. Surge protectors are wonderful if you have a surge of power. Now, there are power strips that look like this, but this is a surge protector, and you can tell because it'll either say surge on it, and there's also on and off buttons and with lights, and that's how you know it's a surge protector. Surge protectors are only good for when a power surges. That's when it's off, it comes back on, and then it goes back off. That's a surge. That's okay, but the best solution is to unplug everything when you're having a storm. That way you are more likely not to have damage to your equipment. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in this week for this tech tip. I hope you find this information useful. Please stay tuned for next week's tech tip.